Okay, hi again. We now move to Erikson stages 5 and 6. 5 would be you guys, and then 6 would be, well, not you guys. Anyway, our 5th stage, and this is the one we probably in class, if we get there, would spend the most time on, would be identity versus role confusion. And this is 12 to 18, so puberty to high school, basically. I would say probably in real life now, Erikson did this stuff in the 40s, I think, 40s and 50s. You would see this sort of extend as our youth, more kids going to college, more kids sort of not growing up quite as quickly. Might extend, but for our purposes right now, 12 to 18. But think about people that you know that are 19, 20, 21, 22 who might fit some of this too. So here we've got, in a positive sense, you've got this search for identity. Who am I? Who am I in lots of ways? Not a philosophical question. So sometimes it's a practical question. So they begin to identify roles. What kind of person do I want to be, and how am I going to find that out? So when you think about, I use the phrase "trying things on," where you're trying on different hats, if you will. You all know somebody probably who in junior high was way different than they are now, and I don't want mean bad things by that, but there was the cheerleader who now was the goth, or vice versa, or whatever kind of thing. But that's part of trying things on. And when I say that, I mean about gender, and I don't mean which gender I am, although that is one thing. But if you think about, if you're a girl, are you going to be like the sporty girl, or are you going to be like the we'll be nice and say the friendly girl, or the girly girl, or the intellectual girl kind of thing? And boys, same basic thing. You've got that. Religion, sometimes you see this. I'm not sure. I want to try Buddhist philosophy. I want to see what Hindus like. I want to see, or maybe get very religious, or get very not religious. I'm rejecting this and just trying that out, if you will. Morality in general. What kind of a person am I going to be? You've all done stupid things, and this is the time you tend to do them. Part of that is trying out, like I said. Peers, think about friend groups. Are you going to be the jock? Are you going to be the nerd, the band, the choir, the emo types, the quiet, studious girls, etc.? Are you going to just sort of not be any of those? But also within that group, are you the leader type? Are you the follower type? Are you the peacemaker type? And again, with your groups, you should know what these are. Think about work. Not that you're going to decide what job you want, but you're going to be thinking about it. Well, wonder what it would be like. There's a reason why they give you that career thing right smack dab in the middle of this, that career, what you want to be thing, or what best fits you. But you might do this through co-op. Some of you might be in the co-op or thinking about that, or a job, or talking to somebody who is in a profession that you might know. I always thought about, I wonder what it'd be like to be a doctor. The people that do the ambulance junior program or whatever, all those are the idea of trying out work. And then politics, Trump versus not Trump, and I want to save the world. But politics could also be things like environmental issues, or the Black Lives Matter stuff, and all of that stuff is sort of trying on. And a lot of times this is pretty idealistic, and you're sort of sorting out, and you might think things that are, but you're going for it is the thing. It's still that initiative. You go back to those other stages, and being eager to try things and see how it goes. And sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. You'll all do things, myself included, that you look back and say, oh boy, what was I thinking? On the negative side, there's often confusion or blind searching. There's still the trying things on, but it's like, picture lurching around with no real plan. Well, I think I'd like to be a race car driver. Well, I think I'd like to be a drug dealer. I think I'd like to be maybe things unrealistic, or maybe things sort of antisocial, negative here a little bit. The guy and this could be triggered by not just, that youth being not ideal, but also events. I've heard this happen with I hope there's none of you, but a parent dying or a divorce, sort of acting out and going the opposite way for the sake of going the opposite way. A lot of not fitting in. You might fit in with one group, the anti-group, the anti-conformists, but also just not fitting in. There was a guy in my high school. It was like, it's so clear. He was always sort of around the fringe, and people were mean to him, to be honest. It's not because he was a bad person. He just didn't fit anywhere, but he obviously wanted to, and who knows how he turned out. Hopefully good. And then there's lots of flux in this one. There's a meaning that you can just sort of withdraw. You can sort of lurch around, like I said. You can be the guy that tries to get attention all the time, who basically is the guy that everybody rolls their eyes at. Oh, God, here he comes, kind of thing. And you probably all know people like those three that I just named. But there's that's still searching, but not knowing really how to search or what to search for. And it's something that I see, both of these, all the time, in class especially. So, yeah. Okay, so there's a big one. Our next one, intimacy versus isolation. This is, well, once you're out of school, and to me, like I said earlier, this probably is more like college-y things and so on and afterwards. But here you're talking about relationships with others. Once you get out of high school, I don't know personally, but if you go to college, away anywhere, you're probably not going to be friends with your high school friends nearly as closely as you were, which, so be it. Or maybe you will. Maybe you'll get away and then come back. Social media helps that somewhat, but it also hinders it in some ways, I guess. But we're talking about healthy relationships, and here's where you're, generally 19 to 40. If you're going to get married, if you're going to get living with someone or whatever you're going to do, this is when it's going to happen. Very few people, I think I'll get married when I'm 45. It happens, but it's not that common. I think I'll get married when I'm 16. That happens too. Not common. If you can imagine yourselves married. But think about love. And again, not just lasting love, but playing the field, if you will, and doing the whole Tinder stuff and all that, the dating around or whatever you want to call it, sort of looking at sort of a continuation of the search. If you combine these two very clearly, I think you see a connection. Friendships, which are often based more here on a lot of times the workplace, or maybe one's church, or maybe one's when you start becoming parents, and you are friends with the parents of the kids who play the same things that on the team, or the people that live in the cul-de-sac. You just picture these, classic suburban scenarios. But work also, not just relationships at work, but the type of work you do, and generally looking for something other than just a salary, looking for some sort of meaning, or way to find meaning in that work. But, this is, think about your parents. I mean, this is basically what their life is, to a large degree. Okay? The negative side, and this is where it starts to get tough because you really see these people around. There's the feelings of apartness. I don't quite fit, continuing from this theme up here. I don't quite fit anywhere. And I may not care. This is the classic back in the old days. I'm the gay kid in town that I would get, mercilessly made fun of if I were gay or ostracized. That, frankly, is less of a thing than it used to be, but I'm sure it's still there. But you get that. But just the kid, and I use the word oddness, not in a negative sense necessarily, but man, that guy's odd. He's not married. He doesn't date. He doesn't really have a job. He works at the gas station midnight shift, and he does not have any kids, and it just doesn't fit. And all of his high school friends are getting married or whatever, and there he is. And that whole eternal struggle of the wife versus the friend. But this guy probably didn't have very many friends in the first place, frankly. And stereotypically, these are your people in their 30s still doing the role-playing games. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but that's all they do. they latch on to that. These fantasy worlds, social media, and so on has probably made this easier, which is good in one way but bad in another, because there's less incentive to really break out of it. And then they tend to have antisocial tendencies, again, in the basement, or living a life that is not in tune with what the major part of society is, which some people like that. But generally, it's not really healthy in most ways. So, okay. Well, that's that. And then the next one we'll finish up. All right. Bye.